The wedding hall buzzed with restless whispers. My groom, Ethan, was nowhere to be seen. Guests exchanged awkward glances, fanning themselves, waiting. Then he appeared, finally, arm in arm with Nina, walking down the aisle as if time belonged to him. He stopped in front of me, eyes cold. Lila, I'm not marrying you today. The air froze. My mind went blank for half a second. He spoke again, voice sharp enough to cut through the silence. You shouldn't have hit Nina. When you apologize to her, then maybe, we'll talk about marriage again. I stared at him, a dry laugh escaping my throat. You've got to be kidding me. I lifted a glass of champagne, raised it high, then hurled it straight at his forehead. The glass shattered, the liquid dripping down his stunned face. You've had your fun, Ethan, I said, my voice steady. Now take that bitch and get the hell out of my sight. Blood trickled from his temple. His jaw tightened. Fine, Lila. Don't come crawling back later. Nina gasped and clung to him as they left the hall, his hand protectively around her waist. The place fell dead silent. Guests exchanged glances, pretending not to look at me. I brushed my hair off my forehead, scanning the crowd until my eyes met his. Ryan sat in the front row, watching like it was all some private show. Dark suit, a glass of wine in hand, his expression unreadable. You, I said, pointing right at him. Come up here and marry me. His brows lifted a fraction. Are you talking to me? Who else would I be talking to? His lips curved slightly, barely a smile, and he stood, placing the glass aside. The soft click of his shoes echoed through the hall as he walked toward me. He looked around, gaze cool, faintly disdainful. This setup, he said, is far too simple for our wedding. Then he took the microphone from the stand, his calm, clear voice resonating through the stunned hall. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, Lila and I will hold our official wedding on the 7th of next month. Invitations will be sent soon. A murmur of surprise rippled through the guests, then applause. Laughter, whispered gossip. Did I hear that right? Lila's marrying him? Unbelievable. She was just dumped. And now she's engaged to Ryan? That man's untouchable. She's something else. I heard half the rich heirs in this city have chased her. Guess she finally caught the right one. Their words reached my ears. But I only looked at Ryan. His expression hadn't changed, a perfect poker face. God, even that coldness was sexy. No wonder he was meant to be the male lead of my life. My throat tightened. I swallowed hard. Hungry? He asked suddenly, his arm sliding around my shoulders. Let's get something to eat. Still dazed, I let him guide me out. His cologne, cool pine and smoke, wrapped around me. Intoxicating. So this was the charm of the so-called destined male lead? Fine. I'd had enough humiliation for one day. I grabbed his tie, pulled him down, and kissed him. His lips were soft, warm, nothing like his frosty demeanor. When I finally let go, I smiled. All right, now we can eat. We walked out together, leaving the stunned crowd behind. The private dining room glowed under warm light, but the tension inside was thick enough to choke on. Ethan leaned lazily against the couch, a glass of whiskey dangling from his fingers. Around him, his so-called brothers laughed too loudly, trying too hard to fill the silence. Bro, weren't you a bit harsh today? One of them ventured. I mean, that was your wedding. What if Lila really walks away for good? Yeah, another chimed in. I've never seen her so angry. She actually threw a drink at you. Man, Ethan smirked, eyes dark and confident. She loves me too much to walk away. She's just mad. Women like her, gotta keep them in check. The table erupted with laughter. Damn right. Ethan, Lila's been with you for what, 10 years? She'll come crawling back before the night's over. Wanna bet? Another said, grinning. I say she'll call within the hour, begging to make up. Someone else added, lowering his voice. But hey, I heard something crazy. Word is, after you left, Lila just picked another guy and married him on the spot. The Ryan guy. You know who I mean. The laughter stopped cold. Ethan's glass froze midair. What did you say? Come on, man. You can't believe that. Like Lila would ever get Ryan to say yes. That guy's practically royalty. She probably found some random dude to put on a show. But Ethan's face had already gone pale. His smirk gone. That woman dared to marry someone else? Even as a joke? He clenched his jaw and downed the rest of his drink in one gulp. Later that night, Ryan and I sat side by side in his home theater, feet soaking in warm water, a movie flickering across the screen. He was massaging my shoulders. I was peeling an orange. Peaceful, comfortable, almost unreal. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Ethan. I let it ring until it stopped. 2 seconds later, it rang again. I sighed and picked up. Voice cool. What do you want? A nervous male voice answered. Lila. It's me, Ethan's friend. He's drunk. Could you maybe come pick him up? I hung up. The phone rang again. Lila. Wait, did you just hang? She hung up again. The guy muttered before passing it back. Ethan's teeth ground together as he redialed. This time, I answered. If he's drunk, he can sleep it off. Don't call me again. I'm busy. Still mad. Ha? Ethan's voice softened. Almost playful. All right. Forget about the apology thing. Okay? I'm drunk. I need you. I'll send you my location. Are you insane? I cut him off. You dumped me this morning. Remember? So do us both a favor and stay gone. He laughed lightly, like I'd said something cute. Come on, Lila. You can't just erase 10 years like that. We've been through everything together. Yeah, I said, voice flat. Call it what it was, a failed experiment. And maybe learn to keep your pants zipped while you're at it. He went silent for a second. Then, a little desperate. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said slowly, without me, you're nothing. For a moment, the line went completely still. Then he chuckled, low and bitter. Since when did you get this sharp, Lila? I'm done, Ethan. Go find someone else to control. All right then, he said softly. If you won't come get me, I'll call a driver. Just wait for me, okay? The call ended. I stared at the dark screen, incredulous. What a lunatic, I muttered. From beside me, Ryan's voice was dry. You brought that on yourself. I shot him a glare. You're not exactly helping. Stop sitting there and peel me an orange. He didn't argue, just quietly reached for one and started peeling. An hour later, the air was thick and humid. Our breaths tangled in the dark. Ryan's hand slid down my waist, his voice low and rough. Don't move. I laughed softly, hooking my arms around his neck. What if I do? His eyes darkened. Then you'll deal with the consequences. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once, twice, over and over. I ignored it until the 20th ring. When I finally reached for it mid-break, Ethan, dozens of missed calls. Before I could lock the screen again, another call came through. My thumb moved on reflex, answer. Where the hell are you? His voice was sharp with anger. Why aren't you home? Ryan smirked and moved again. Deliberately. My hand clenched the sheet as I glared at him through flushed cheeks. What's that noise? Lila. What the hell are you doing? Typical. Men really did think with what was below their belt. He'd already sensed something was off. Ryan, the bastard, only raised a brow and kept going. Lila, Ethan shouted. Say something. You come home right now. I can't. I breathed out slowly, voice smooth, calm, teasing. I'm busy. He froze on the other end, silent for a few seconds, then a strangled, furious, you, before he could finish. Ryan took the phone, ended the call, and powered it off. Annoying, he muttered. I couldn't help laughing breathlessly. After that, there was no more talking. I didn't wake up until noon. My phone was flooded, 99 missed calls, endless messages, all from Ethan. He must have lost his mind last night. Not my problem. After lunch, I noticed the diamond on my manicure looked dull, maybe from when I'd scratched Nina's face. Tainted, probably. As I headed out to fix it, I hummed under my breath until a familiar voice stopped me. Lila. Ethan stood a few steps away, eyes bloodshot, expression a mess of anger and panic. He grabbed my wrist hard. Why the hell haven't you answered my calls? Then his gaze dropped to my collarbone, where faint marks still lingered. His face twisted. So it's true, he hissed. You really went to another man? Who is he? Tell me, and I'll kill him. I pulled my hand free. That's my business, not yours. He stared, chest heaving. Your business? You think I'll just stand by while if you're that curious? I cut him off. Come to my wedding next month. Consider it a front row seat. Ex-boyfriends count as guests too, right? His face drained of color. Wedding? Ex-boyfriend? Lila, what are you saying? I'm saying it's over, I said evenly. You humiliated me in front of everyone. Ethan, we're done. My life no longer concerns you. He shook his head violently. No, Lila. That's not what I meant. I just said we'd talk about it later. I didn't mean to cancel the wedding. He reached for my hand again. Desperate now. I was wrong. Okay? Forget the apology. Forget Nina. I'll cut her off. I'll fix this. 10 years. Lila, you can't throw that away. I looked at him, calm and distant. You already did. The days following that night were a blur of emotions and silence. Each of us living our own quiet storm. As the wedding date loomed closer, the chaos continued. But now, the only person I cared about was Ryan. I didn't even want to think about Ethan anymore. He'd made his choices, and I was done trying to fix things that were never meant to be. But fate had other plans. 1 week before the wedding, Ethan came to me in the middle of the night, dragging Nina behind him. Lila, you don't understand. Nina's school has a curfew. It's not safe for her to stay in a hotel by herself. She's a girl. For God's sake, just let her stay here for one night, he begged, his eyes wide with that all too familiar desperation. Nina stood there, looking as innocent as ever, her jet black hair cascading like a silk curtain, doe-like eyes glistening with sweetness. She looked up at me, her voice soft, almost pleading. Lila, I'm sorry to intrude, but I'm happy to leave if it's too much trouble. I don't want to cause any problems between you and Ethan. I stared at her, resisting the urge to laugh at her fake meekness. You've already come in, I said, not even bothering to mask my sarcasm. Why ask for my permission now? You can stay. Ethan's face lit up in relief, but Nina's gaze shifted. She looked at the ground, as if hiding some deep hurt, then turned back to Ethan. I can't stay here, Ethan. I know this is a lot to ask, she said, her voice trembling. I promise, I'll cut off all ties with Ethan. I don't want to cause trouble between you two anymore. The words almost made me gag. Ethan, clearly not happy with my response, stepped in to defend her. Lila, come on. She's just a kid. Can't you show a little more understanding? She's been through enough. I had to bite my tongue. A kid? I repeated, laughing bitterly. She's older than I was when you started stringing me along. Ethan. His jaw tightened. He stepped forward, hand landing firmly on Nina's shoulder, his face softening as he gazed at her with an almost protective tenderness. Don't worry, Nina, he said soothingly. Stay the night. We'll sort everything out tomorrow. I'm just looking out for you. That's all. I could barely contain my disgust. I turned away, and before I could stop myself, I muttered under my breath. It's all for the greater good, isn't it? The next morning, Nina tried again, this time catching me just as I came downstairs. She was holding a glass of milk, looking like a perfect angel, innocent, fragile. Lila, this is for you, she said, her voice soft, almost sweet. It's the least I can do after everything. I didn't take it, walking straight past her, but Nina was quick, grabbing my arm and leaning in. Don't think you're the only one who can have him. Lila, he's mine, and I'll make sure you never get your hands on him again. Her words hit me like a slap. I whipped around, glaring at her with fire in my eyes. Without thinking, I grabbed her by the collar of her shirt and pulled her closer. She was shocked, her wide eyes flickering between fear and surprise. I struck first, my hand coming down hard on her cheek. The diamonds on my nails scraped across her face, leaving a deep cut that made her cry out in pain. You bitch, I spat. Don't you ever try to threaten me again. Behind me, I heard Ethan's voice, calm, almost too calm. Lila, this has gone far enough. But I didn't care. My anger was like wildfire. Stay out of it, Ethan, I warned, turning on him. You've already let this go too far. Nina staggered back, hands clutching her cheek as tears pooled in her eyes. She looked up at Ethan, her voice full of fake innocence. Ethan, I was just trying to be kind. She hit me, and I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to come between you two. But, she trailed off, wiping away a tear dramatically. Ethan's eyes flicked between Nina and me, but I could see the way he was looking at her, protective, almost possessive. He shook his head, a look of disappointment on his face. Lila, I told you already. Nina is just a girl. I'm helping her out. You can't keep acting like this. It's not fair to her. I felt like the world was spinning out of control. Ethan, the man I had spent 10 years with, had already chosen his side, and it wasn't me. The following days felt like a blur. Ethan continued to tell me that everything with Nina was innocent, that I should stop being paranoid. But the truth was clear, he was slipping away. And he didn't care about me anymore. The more I heard, the more I realized Nina wasn't just some girl he was helping out. She was the new object of his obsession, and he'd already moved on. It was like I had become invisible to him. On the day of the wedding, I couldn't help but feel that everything had been building to this moment. I looked around. The lavish venue, the flowers, the perfect setting for the ceremony that was supposed to be mine. But it wasn't my wedding anymore. I wasn't marrying Ethan. I was marrying Ryan. And that fact felt like the sweetest victory of all. The week leading up to the wedding felt like a fever dream. It wasn't just the last-minute preparations or the incessant flow of calls and messages, it was the overwhelming sense of change that hung in the air. A kind of weight that made my chest feel tight with every breath. I should have been nervous. But strangely, I felt calm, almost detached. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The day I would finally take control of my life. Ethan had been trying to reach me non-stop. But I wasn't interested. Every message, every voicemail, every call was nothing more than a distant echo of the life I used to know. I had done everything for him. I had built his dreams, stood by him through every hardship, and supported him as he rose from nothing to become a somebody. But when it mattered most, when I needed him to stand by me, he chose Nina. And that was when I knew. The woman who had spent years building a life around him was no more. The Lila Reed who had been shackled by love and loyalty, she was gone. In her place stood someone unrecognizable, someone who could walk away without looking back. Wedding day arrived. The sun was shining, casting a golden light over the European estate where the ceremony would take place. The entire place had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale, magnificent, ethereal, almost unreal. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in my wedding gown, the delicate lace brushing against my skin. My fingers traced the intricate beading along the hem, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if this was really happening. It was. I was marrying Ryan, the man who was everything Ethan couldn't be. Ryan's eyes met mine in the reflection, and the corners of his lips lifted into the smallest of smiles. There was something about the way he looked at me, intensely, yet so softly, that made my heart flutter. "You look breathtaking, Lila," he said, voice low, as if to remind me of something we had long since known. I turned to face him. "I don't know how you do it, Ryan," I murmured, unable to keep the edge of uncertainty out of my voice. "You make me feel like I'm meant to be here." Ryan took my hands in his, squeezing gently. "You are meant to be here. This is your story, Lila, and I'm just a part of it, your biggest fan." I couldn't help but smile. The weight in my chest lifted. Just then, the door creaked open, and my bridesmaids entered, the sounds of their laughter filling the room. Their faces lit up when they saw me. "You look amazing, Lila," one of them exclaimed. Another added, "I can't believe it's finally happening." I nodded, my eyes wandering to the bouquet that one of the bridesmaids was holding. It felt surreal, like I was in a dream. The ceremony went by in a blur. I walked down the aisle, the soft sound of my heels echoing on the marble floor, every step bringing me closer to a future I had once only imagined. Ethan wasn't there. Of course, he wasn't. He had spent the days leading up to the wedding trying to convince me to forgive him, to accept his apology, but it was too late. His betrayal had been the last straw. When the time came for Ryan and me to exchange vows, his voice rang clear and steady in the quiet room. "I, Ryan Cole, take you, Lila Reed, to be my lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish you for all the days of my life." I smiled, the knot in my throat finally loosening. This wasn't a forced promise, it was real, pure, and mine. "I, Lila Reed, take you, Ryan Cole, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to love, honor, and stand by you, no matter what life throws our way." When the officiant declared us husband and wife, the room erupted into applause. Ryan pulled me into a kiss, sealing our vows with something more than just words, action. The audience cheered as we kissed, the world around us disappearing for those brief moments. As the reception continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Sure, the night was filled with celebration and joy, but my mind kept drifting back to Ethan. It wasn't guilt or regret, it was more like curiosity. What had happened to him? How could a man who once promised me the world fall so far? My thoughts were interrupted when Ryan pulled me closer to him, his arm around my waist as we danced under the stars. "Thinking about him, aren't you?" Ryan asked, his voice quiet but perceptive. I glanced up at him. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I'm thinking about the future, our future." Ryan's smile deepened, and he kissed the top of my head. "Good. That's all that matters. Lila, the past is behind us. And for the first time in years, I finally believed it. Later that evening, as we stood together at the edge of the balcony, watching the lights flicker in the distance, I knew one thing for certain. This was my new beginning. The honeymoon was a dream. I couldn't have asked for a more perfect escape with Ryan. The days melted away, spent in quiet solitude, far from the world that had once held so much drama and heartache. We explored distant beaches, roamed ancient cities, and simply existed together. It was the first time in years I had truly felt free, unburdened, unchained, and at peace with myself. But of course, life had a way of pulling you back, no matter how far you tried to run. We had just returned to the city when the first sign of Ethan came, a missed call, then a barrage of messages. At first, I ignored them, but my heart sank when I saw one that read, "Lila, I need to talk. Please. I don't care about Nina anymore. I've lost everything. I'm coming to see you." I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure of what to feel. Part of me wanted to throw my phone against the wall. Another part of me, the old me, wondered if I should hear him out. Ryan noticed me staring at the phone, his expression unreadable. "It's him, isn't it?" I nodded slowly, my hand tightening around the phone. "Ethan, he's not worth your time." Ryan's voice was firm, his arm tightening around me. "You've made your choice. Lila, don't let him mess with your head again." I wanted to tell Ryan that I wasn't thinking about Ethan, that I was fully committed to him, but the truth was, something about this whole situation felt unfinished. "I don't want to see him," I said softly, "but I can't just ignore him, either." Ryan didn't say anything. Instead, he just kissed the top of my head, a soft but assuring gesture that calmed the storm brewing inside me. 2 days later, Ethan showed up at my doorstep. His appearance was jarring, disheveled, eyes wild, as though he had been through hell and back. When he saw me standing there, his face twisted with a mixture of desperation and regret. "Lila, please, let me in. We need to talk." I didn't move. "You've made your bed, Ethan. You have no place here." His eyes darkened, his voice cracking as he stepped forward, attempting to break through the invisible barrier between us. "You don't understand. I've lost everything. I never should have let Nina into my life. I was stupid. Enough." I held up my hand, cutting him off. "You had every chance to make it right, but you didn't. I'm not going back, Ethan. I'm married now. I have a future with Ryan." His face paled, and for a moment, he seemed to shrink in on himself. "I never thought you'd leave me. You were always supposed to be mine." His voice was quiet, almost pained, as though he was seeing the reality of what he had lost for the first time. "You never gave me a choice," I replied coldly, "and now, I'm free. I don't owe you anything." Ethan stood there for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he turned and left. But as he walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been left unsaid. A final, broken part of him that I would never be able to fix. Later that night, Ryan and I were curled up on the couch, the sound of rain pattering against the windows. The comfort of his presence was all I needed. He kissed my forehead softly, his hand gently resting on mine. "You made the right decision, Lila. I know." I leaned into him, my heart steady now. I don't know. I never expected it to be this way. I thought I'd be a wreck when Ethan came back, but I feel nothing, like I've already moved on, and he's just irrelevant." Ryan smiled, his thumb tracing lazy circles on my hand. "Because he is irrelevant. You've outgrown him. You're with me now, and that's all that matters." I nodded, the weight lifting from my chest as I finally let go of the past. A week later, I received an email from Ethan. It was short, but it felt like a final plea. "I can't live with the guilt anymore. You were everything to me, Lila, but I know I lost you. I'm sorry for everything. I'll never be the man you wanted me to be. Please don't hate me." I didn't respond, and for the first time in my life, I was okay with that. Life slowly returned to a rhythm, with Ryan by my side, and my past, finally, left behind. Every day felt more like a promise, a new beginning that was nothing like the life I had once known. The final piece of the puzzle came one afternoon, a month after the wedding. I was sitting at my desk, going through emails, when I received a call. It was from Ethan's assistant. "Mr. Chin is asking if you'll attend his company's charity event next week. He says he wants to make amends. He's asking for your presence." Lila. I considered it for a moment. And then, without hesitation, I hung up the phone. I didn't need closure. I had already moved on. Time passed in a quiet rhythm, each day moving forward, leaving the wreckage of my past farther behind. With Ryan, everything felt new, clean, and full of promise. Every morning, waking up next to him was like stepping into a new chapter, one I had always dreamed of but never truly believed would come. Our lives blended seamlessly, our routines settling into something both comforting and exhilarating. There were still moments of doubt, small flickers of uncertainty that I quickly pushed aside. But for the first time in a long time, I trusted what I had with Ryan. It was a month after the wedding, and I had just finished a meeting with a new client when my phone buzzed. I glanced down and saw the name I had been avoiding for weeks, Ethan. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my finger hovering over the call button. There was a part of me that wanted to pick up, to hear his voice one last time, to understand why he couldn't let go. But another part of me, the part that had been reborn, that had reclaimed her own power, knew it was time to truly close that door. I swiped the screen, ignoring the call. A few seconds later, a message popped up. Lila, please, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to see you. I've made a mess of everything, and I can't live with the regret. I just need one more chance to explain. Please. I read the message, feeling a small pang of something I couldn't quite name. Sympathy? Guilt? Maybe a bit of both. But no matter what he said, the truth was clear. I had moved on. I tucked my phone back into my bag, taking a deep breath. The past was the past. There was no reason to revisit it. That evening, Ryan and I went out for dinner at our favorite restaurant. The soft light of the chandelier above us created an intimate atmosphere. And for once, I wasn't thinking about the past or the things I had left behind. Ryan was telling me about an interesting project at work, but I couldn't quite focus. My thoughts kept drifting to Ethan, not because I missed him, but because I wondered how someone I had loved so deeply could fall so far. Ryan noticed my distraction and placed his hand on mine, giving it a gentle squeeze. Lila, he said, his voice steady. You're here with me now. You don't need to carry that baggage anymore. I smiled at him, grateful for his support. I know, it's just, sometimes, I wonder how things got so messed up, how I let it go on for so long. Ryan's eyes softened. You were young, and you believed in him, but you've learned. Lila, you've grown. You're here now, and that's what matters. We have our future, and nothing can take that from us. Later that night, as we walked back to the car, I found myself thinking about Ethan one last time. His apology, his regret, it all seemed so hollow now. But for the first time, I felt no desire for closure, no need for him to explain himself. He had his chance, and I had my life. The next day, I received another message from Ethan, but this time, it was different. The message was brief, with a tone that felt final. I see now that I've lost you for good. I can't blame you for moving on. Take care, Lila. I hope you find the happiness I could never give you. The words didn't sting. They didn't leave a mark. Instead, they were just empty. I read them once, and then deleted the message without a second thought. Ryan and I spent the weekend out of the city, visiting a small town by the coast. It was peaceful, beautiful, everything I needed to fully move forward. As we walked along the beach, hand in hand, the weight of my past seemed to dissolve in the salty air. For the first time in years, I felt whole. I glanced up at Ryan, smiling. You know, I think this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Ryan looked down at me, his eyes warm, full of love. I feel the same way. He pulled me closer, his lips brushing against mine in a soft, lingering kiss. When we pulled away, I felt as if I had left something behind in that kiss, something heavy and burdensome, and in its place was only light. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, wondering about what could have been. I wasn't carrying the weight of past regrets or what-ifs. All I could see was the future, the one I had chosen. 2 months later, Ethan's company collapsed. I saw the news online. The headlines filled with words like bankruptcy, scandal, and disaster. It wasn't a surprise. Ethan had always been a man who thrived on control, on manipulation. Without that, he crumbled. Ryan and I were sitting on the couch, watching the news when the report aired. Ryan glanced at me, his expression unreadable. I guess it's over for him, he said quietly. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I thought about the years I had spent with Ethan, the hopes I had placed in him, the future I had once imagined. Then I smiled softly. It's been over for a long time, I said, my voice steady. I'm done with him, Ryan, and I'm ready for what comes next. Ryan squeezed my hand, a small, satisfied smile on his lips. Then let's move forward. And so, we did. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.